From the Fatheads Eyewear Studio in Indianapolis, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Maybe I need to start in the trash truck business.
Don't rule it out.
But the steering is spokes on the wheel straight ahead. The steering's broken. Bridges takes the wheel and he goes, whoa, whoa.
He's airborne, and then I'm above him.
Inverted.
All at the same time. Yeah, you're just like, wow, that's a wild picture.
He gets behind the race car and he tells me if I'm good or not, and if I'm good, he'll go, perfect.
I hang up on the guy. I go, who's this? This is Deion Sanders. I go, yeah, nice try. See you later.
Bounce and then this insane roll. That thing sent it.
I hate qualifying. It's the worst. It's literally the worst thing you could ever do. But I'm smooth and creamy like milk chocolate. Have you ever not saw a Hershey bar that did not look good?
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Mario Andretti.
I'm Johnny Rutherford.
I'm Angel Sampe.
I'm Travis Pastrana.
This is Antron Brown.
Hi, I'm Joey Payne, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Skinny. We are in the Fatheads Eyewear Studio, located here in Indianapolis, Indiana, the racing capital of the world. I'm Ken Stout. Our guest over there is a Jersey Jet. That is Mr. Joey Payne. Sitting right in the middle is the big man, Rico Elmore. And as always, the track dude, Mr. Michael Young, is going to do his best to keep us in focus here today.
Trying.
We'll see how that turns out. We'll let you know in about an hour. So our guest is quite an accomplished open wheel racer in the Northeast. We constantly hear about the big block super modifieds, and he is very familiar with how those things rotate around the tracks up there in the Northeast. Also very accomplished in midgets and TQ midgets as well. Mr. Joey Payne, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been trying to do this for 3 years now, and we finally got it.
It was just a day, not 3 years now. We did this before, didn't we?
Well, I feel like Joey might be correct on this one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And that's it. So you two guys met in Fort Wayne at the Rumble?
We actually met in PA. We were out there. So he and Tony Stewart had a great friendship from years back. And Tony and I were out there racing, out there. What?
Middletown, New York.
Middletown.
New York.
Yeah. New York. Oh, was it in New York?
In New York, yeah.
That all kind of blends together out there. But when you're living out of a motorhome and a suitcase, doesn't really, or a bag. Tony has his Samsonite, the plastic trash bag, which is amazing.
Well, they're double layered. They're pretty tough. So
yeah, he's
they
got the
contain the
ones
smell at the end of the night. You tie a knot in them.
They'll work well. But no, we met out there, and it was awesome. Immediately hit it off, and realized what a redneck he was, just like me. So it's perfect.
Redneck from New Jersey. Is that true, Joey?
No rednecks in New Jersey.
So we say you're from New Jersey. Let's fill them in on that as well. You're from Brick, New Jersey.
Brick, New Jersey.
And I would call that central to south New Jersey, somewhere in there.
It's central east. We're close to the beach.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. Obviously, Wall Stadium, the roar, the Jersey Shore down there is the racetrack that I'm sure you've spent many, many years at all along the way.
Yeah, my career, I started in 1984, and Wall Stadium was a big part of. We used to race there probably with the traveling club, ATQMRA. I think we used to race maybe 6 or 7 times a year there, and we always look forward to it because the banking's 30 degrees. And third of a mile, and it's you get it there.
That's a lot like Salem and Winchester. I heard that's over 30 degrees.
Yeah, both of those tracks are, the high bank. Yeah. So I grew up there. My career started at Old Bridge Township Raceway Park at the drag strip over there. The Knapps, the Knapp family, wonderful to me, and will forever be grateful for the opportunity to work there. But very close to that was Wall Stadium, right. And for 10 years, I threatened to go down there and never made it there once. So I had no idea that it was a high bank track. For starters, a friend of mine, Charlie Roberts, who had the McDonald's Motorsports Report back in the day, he sent me into the Waldorf to do interviews with the NASCAR gang whenever they came in and had their awards banquet there. So I remember him being heavily involved as an announcer with all the modifieds in the Northeast, because that is really the home to the super modifieds.
Yeah. Yep. It's modifieds, not super modifieds. Modified NASCAR tour guys that, the super modifieds are more a New England organization, Oswego, New York, ISMA, the traveling deal. You know, we did get to race at Wall Stadium with the super modifieds with ISMA back in, I think it was 03 or 04. You know, like a typical lap with a modified there is maybe 12.3, 11.8, somewhere around there. And when we raced the supers there, we were like 10.6 and 10.7. So
Ooh,
Yeah, those things.
on a third mile,
on
right?
a third mile. Yeah.
They are, they're some of the coolest race cars I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that motor hanging out the left side, and then they tip them over a little bit.
What were you saying? We talked last night. You were talking about Davey having some issues.
Well, so you guys, we talked about at the top of the show the big block modifieds and you off camera here earlier talking about the modifieds out on the West Coast, super modifieds out on the West Coast run the small blocks.
Small blocks, yeah.
So a little bit different, but yeah, I was chatting with Davey Hamilton, and he said they're able to lay the small blocks over a little bit more.
They're like 40,
obviously a smaller
almost
engine than the
45
big
degrees, yeah.
So they lay them way over. And he said he was running somewhere out there on the west, and they had the little rumble strips on the bottom of the track. And he said he brought the car back in after the first session, and the headers were smashed in. So the crew looked at him and said, "Dude, you smashed the headers in." And Davey looked at him and he said, I didn't do that. I didn't smash. He said, "You guys must have done that when you were backing it out of the trailer." He said, so they changed the headers, and we say change the headers. It sounds easy, but on those cars, it's a complete pain in the
It's
butt.
a nightmare.
Yeah.
to do that.
Everything to work on those cars is a nightmare.
because it's laid over.
Yeah.
So he said they changed the header. He went back out for the next session, brought it back in. It was all
Smashed
smashed. So he had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide now. And he said he couldn't even feel it when he was hitting those rumble strips because it was so close to the ground that it smashed the tubes in.
Yep. So I have a Davey Hamilton story. So I ran Phoenix for the Copper Classic, and he blew up going into one, and I got in his oil, and it was like the slide of death, like sideways, no control. And
How fast are you running 1 into 1?
170 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a massive track and rocket ship cars.
I believe through the tri-oval on the backstretch we're 182 miles an hour.
I mean that's got to be near IndyCar speed.
IndyCar, that was the first year the Indy cars were there when I raced, and I remember Eddie Cheever came over to me and he had said, he goes, "You guys are out of your minds." He goes, "We're in these Indy cars, we got ground effects, we're doing like low 25 second laps. You guys are like 25.7. 88, I believe.
Oh
yeah, he was a skinny little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hit it off good. I mean,
Was he driving the Ford Probe?
No.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. Innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Skinny. We have Mr. Joey Payne on the set with us here out of Brick, New Jersey, talking about him racing there in the Northeast with the super modifieds, the big block super modifieds, the TQs, and the midgets, of course. I didn't realize how much indoor racing went on in the Northeast as well. A big part of your career all along the way.
Yeah, it's been a really big part of my career. I've been fortunate enough to win a bunch of championships indoors with the 3/4 midgets, and Niagara Falls I was a champion. Fast forward to Atlantic City, and I won two of the big Gamblers Classic races there, and it actually put me and my dad on the same table. My dad's car won in 1979 there, so as a father and son, we got to be Atlantic City winners. Him as a car owner, me as a driver, and it was pretty special.
So you, Niagara Falls, that's where you met Stuart.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was like 88, I believe.
Oh,
yeah. He was a skinny little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hit it off good. I mean,
Was he driving the Ford Probe?
No.
That's what he used to have. I think it was a Ford Probe.
Yeah, no. He came up there to race. He was driving for Larry Dwinger, which Larry was a good friend of mine, and we met there. And then fast forward, we met back up in I think it was 1991 or 92 down in Florida. We did the AAMS tour with Ed Adair, and
So Lou Ciccone tells a story, which is funny. Tells the story about Tony and him. Tony's racing down there with them in the midgets, and Tony is staying in the trailer at the track or in the trailer wherever the trailer's parked, but he's staying in the trailer. And Lou, which Lou is an amazing guy. We got to get him on here because you want to talk about a storyteller.
Oh man,
that dude's got the stories. But Liquid Lou, he ended up he ends up seeing Tony. He goes, why don't you just stay with me at the hotel? He goes, I got an extra bed. You can. So Lou took him in, and just kind of amazing how all that works. I mean, him and Lou, I mean, all of us are great friends now. That him and Lou, and the relationships that were forged on the road with all these guys, and forever ago. So it's
kids. We were kids. We were all kids back then.
Yeah, Lou had hair.
He actually had hair. Yeah, he had the
Don't
Saucony.
love that.
I'm sorry, Lou. I don't know you, but I'm sorry.
I love that.
Well, what was it like meeting Tony back then? I mean, you build this relationship up with a guy who becomes an international racing superstar. Did you realize that he had that talent early in his career? I mean, you're working with him, very early when he's just getting started. But did you see something in him?
He was like us. I mean, Liquid Lou and I, just that sheer desire to win. And, he started out and he won a bunch of races and, he was at the right place at the right time, back when he started coming up, Saturday Night Thunder, Thursday Night Thunder. I mean, ESPN pushed those guys, pushed them along. I mean, not that he didn't have talent. He's a great talent. And I think
he was pretty smooth.
He was very smooth, and I believe with ESPN and all those Saturday Night Thunder and Thursday Night Thunders, I believe that propelled all those guys to their NASCAR careers.
Well, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and that's something that, I mean, I don't know that it's missing now, but it's missing on prime time because, if you have like a major sponsor or something like that, what's the chances they're watching Flow? What's the chances they're watching Dirt Vision?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, us fans are, us people in the industry are.
We both live in the same world. I wake up every single day, and the first thing I think of, probably was dreaming about it, to be honest with you, is how can I find a sponsor? And it needs to be a win-win for everybody.
Right.
It has to be something where we can reciprocate. But I promise you, the first question that comes out of anybody's mouth that has real money to spend is, what is the TV package? They don't say, what is the streaming package?
Yeah.
So TV is still a very, very important piece of the puzzle.
Right.
It's funny you were talking about the indoor stuff. We definitely need to talk about that in the next segment because I've got some experience in that, and I got to talk to him about it. So
we'll take a quick break here and come back on the other side. Apparently, we're going to talk about some more indoor racing. I actually have a couple questions about that too, because I've heard they use Coke
syrup.
Coke syrup. Yeah.
And brake
we'll
fluid.
talk about that when we come back.
Somebody oiled the track down, and I crashed Tony Stewart's car.
You are looking at a four-time winner at Oswego and also still a record holder there from 2014, set on my birthday, August 29th. That's pretty impressive, man. I know that the rule package has changed there since then, but because of that, you will be forever a record holder at Oswego.
Yeah, there's a lot of people don't think that because the package has changed, but I did a 15.802 with a package of wings 32 inches off the ground, and now we're like 56 inches off the ground. So it's a big difference. I mean, I think it's going to be a track record with like an asterisk because it was the last version of that setup.
Yeah.
So
that was a rear wing and a front wing, but no wing over the cage, right?
Right. It was side panels down the back of the car and 3 separate wing panels inside that side package.
Yeah, really cool car. Nonetheless, I mean, you did it with that package, and if they change the rules, that's kind of a retired package, if you will. And
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
man.
feel that way, but you know, so other people
I got
don't.
your back.
I appreciate it, Ken.
Yeah,
I
plus
appreciate
it's
it.
on Ken's birthday.
And it was on
Right,
your birthday.
yeah,
So.
that one's sticking.
Definitely not changing that.
Before we went to commercial break, we were talking about indoor racing, and I brought up Coke. I'm glad you finished that off whenever you said syrup. And then while we were at break, you said they also use rosin. So I've often been curious. I've heard of that package, and I've seen some indoor racing, and you can see where it takes rubber, I guess, or maybe that's the Coke syrup. I don't know, but yeah, fill us in, because is there also a slick track as well?
Well, what they do is they'll spray the track down with either brake fluid or Coke syrup, Mountain Dew, you know, any kind of syrup, and they'll actually take a burlap bag and put baseball pitcher mound rosin,
Okay.
and they dab it on the track, and what it does is the syrup is very sticky, and the rosin is abrasive. So what it does is as you start making laps, it actually takes the rubber and sticks it to the track, and that's where we get our base from.
It'll pull your shoe off.
So can you kind of like traction compound on a drag strip?
Absolutely.
Same thing.
Yeah,
We
okay.
actually use that as well.
Okay.
You know, all the different indoor venues I do, it's all different. So, like last year, I think we used brake fluid at the Coliseum in Fort Wayne. Atlantic City and Allentown, they use syrup because the brake fluid is really hard to get off the track.
Oh, I would also think the last thing you want all over your paint job and chassis and everything else is brake fluid.
It never gets on the car because with putting the rosin
But if
down
those-
on top of it.
But if they get water on the track, oil on the track, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
To get the track back.
Are
Because
they?
you got to scrape all that, much like the NHRA where they have an oil down. They have to scrape all that off, clean it off, redo it, put it back.
What's funny is, so if you walk across the track, it is so tacky, it will rip your shoe off, no matter how tight you have it tied.
Yeah.
But if you walk over onto part of the track and spit on the floor, you could wipe the rubber right off the floor. It's amazing.
Oh,
It's
That's how easy it comes up.
Yep.
Which
So
is
when they
wild.
put it down, will you guys have a good solid 2-groove track to race on?
absolutely, yeah. What
Really?
we really do. I mean, not so much here in Fort Wayne, but Atlantic City and Allentown, the Salmons family, they put on the shows. They'll put tires out and make us do the outside groove first.
Working in.
And then they'll go move it down a half a groove and then make another. And there's 2 really good grooves of racing.
So do you guys ever run on a slick track with no Coke syrup, no preparation, where it's just slick?
No, only if you oil the track down. I mean, I had that happen to me last year. Somebody oiled the track down and I crashed. I crashed Tony Stewart's car.
We'll take a quick break right here. Maybe we'll touch on that when we come back.
And you just sit there and do nothing all winter long, and you know April comes along and you're got your winter gut on and your arms are weak from not doing anything. You know.
Welcome back to the Fatheads Eyewear Studio. We have the Jersey Jet, Joey Payne, in the studio with us here, and we were talking about indoor racing before, and he mentioned something about crashing a car at Fort Wayne as we were talking about the Rumble. It wasn't just anybody's car. It happened to be a good friend's car that typically runs a number 14. Tell us how that all went down.
Well, we were watching TV at home, my wife and I got a phone call from Tony, and I was like, uh-oh. You know, Fort Wayne was coming up. I'm like, uh-oh, something's going on. And Tony had said to me, he said, remember I told you I have a shoulder problem? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I got to get surgery done, and it's going to be right before Fort Wayne. So he asked me, he says, well, here's the scenario. You could drive your car or you could drive my car. I was like, well, I'll drive your car, because actually the year before, there wasn't a lot of rubber down on the track, and my car was sideways the whole time. So I
Too much power, right?
too much power. Yeah.
How much more power do you think that one has than his?
I believe probably about 50 to 75 horsepower.
Really?
Yeah. It's a big Volkswagen. It's 174 cubic inches, and his I believe is a 146.
And those cars run once a year, and they put them back on the shelf, and they're probably going to come off the shelf about a week before, and Sam's going to thrash on them for a week.
He usually does.
Thrash on them for a week.
Yeah.
Throw them in the trailer, and we're going to Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne.
So
I decided to drive his car, and we were fast immediately. We were fast, of course. You know, Tony's number 2 Munchkin's always a killer at Fort Wayne, and I don't know. I think we won the heat race or one of the races, and then I believe it started me third in the feature, and took the lead on like the third lap, I believe, and we led for I think 25 laps out of a 40 lap or 28 laps, and I went down into 3 and just got in somebody's oil, and I didn't even see it on the track. I mean, because the rubber is such a dark black look. It's hard to see anything on the track.
And it's not like sunlight hitting it. It's
not,
the
and
lights,
you're inside.
It's got high bays in it.
And so I went into 3, and the nose slid, and then it caught rubber like the second groove, and the front grabbed, and when I got on the gas, the left rear just started spinning, and it just shot me right into the wall. And I came in, and I said to Tony, I said, I don't know what I said. I think something broke. I said, I don't wreck leading races. I said, let's make that clear. You know, like if we're in the middle of a pack and something happens and we crash, fine. You know it's going to happen. But when I'm leading the race, I'm not wrecking. And he said to me, he said, yeah, there was oil. Somebody oiled the track down really bad. And he said, when you came into 3, he said, all your tires were like shiny.
Wow.
So with 12 laps to go, I was done.
Yeah.
Bent the
and
front
the car
axle.
was a good car too, huh?
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, man.
So that car that they're literally special made for that race or indoor racing in general.
Right.
I was going to say, so it's like a chili bowl car, but it's
so the spindles on them are laid back. So it'll flop the front wheels almost, right?
Gotcha.
So you can turn them quick. But what happens is you have to have power steering to do it. So it's got electric power steering in it. Tony, 2-3 years ago, when did you guys get engaged?
3 years ago.
4
years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Tony's running lap 2. He starts 7th because he just got hosed around on a couple heat race something. Starts 7th. Loses power steering lap 2 of, I think it's 50 laps.
40 laps, I believe.
Is it
40 or 50?
40
it
or
might be
50 laps. I think it's 50 laps.
Yeah.
Loses power steering lap 2. He ends up driving through because now he's muscling this car that the spindles are laid back. It's not like it just turns. So he's muscling this car. He gets out. He can't even lift the trophy. That's how fatigued he was. So these cars, yet small, are an absolute handful. If like that power steering goes out,
is that Ackerman?
Yes.
So that's Ackerman. So that was the same exact scenario with the Indy Lights car. We had so much Ackerman in it that once that thing loaded up, it makes the steering so heavy,
right?
As you were talking about, you're alluding to here.
And we also have the rubber, which is like glue. So that makes it even 10 times harder to steer.
Yeah, wild cars. I would like to get up there and watch it for sure.
Yeah.
I won't be here through the holidays, but
yeah, it's
watch it live stream.
That's good idea.
Yeah.
What kind of TV package do they have?
The kind you can watch on a computer.
The kind you can watch on Flow.
Something.
That's pretty cool. Well, that's awesome, man. And to hear that there's so much of that in the Northeast, it gives everybody a chance to go racing and what you would typically call the off season.
It keeps most of the guys sharp, and that's why I did it for all those years. I mean, usually your season ends in September, and you just sit there and do nothing all winter long, and April comes along, and you're got your winter gut on, and your arms are weak from not doing anything.
Your neck, everything.
Indoor racing right now is like combat with the 3/4 midgets. It's bumper to bumper, and you have to be on your game.
Yeah. Happens quick for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. We'll take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be back. This whole racing thing for the Paynes is a family affair.
Pushed so much, and I ducked under them. And I remember I was going down the straight and I was like, thanks, Dad.
The Skinny is brought to you by American Coach. American Coach. Innovation is our life force. and Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Skinny. We have a great guest on with us here this week. It is the Jersey Jet, Joey Payne. And when we went to break, I said it was a family affair. I have to congratulate you on winning the first ever Joe Payne Senior Memorial. Obviously, after your father there qualified on the pole and won that. And I believe you said off break, you actually won it back-to-back years.
Back-to-back, yeah. They had it 2 years, and I won both of them. So that was a big accomplishment in my career. I mean, I've won championships and big prestigious races, but when your dad passes away and you win his race two years in a row, there's no better race to win.
So he obviously was influential in the either with the track or the series, whatever the case may be, to actually create the race.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I know you said he was a car owner, but he had to be more than that.
Well, he was a car owner from back in 1970. I can remember as I was in kindergarten, and I remember him buying this upright TQ midget, and he was involved with the ATQMRA for till he died. I mean, he was 80 years old when he died, and up until I think it was a year before he died, that track we had his memorial race at, that was the last race he was at. So that I think they wanted to make it at that track because that was the last time it was at a race. So it was.
And this track was
Bethel Speedway in New York State, Monticello, New York.
Was he watching you?
There's a funny story. So I was second, and the kid that was leading, he was running the crap out of his car, and as the race went on, he was pushing more and more and more, and finally he pushed so much, and I ducked under him, and I remember I was going down the straight and I was like, "Thanks, Dad."
Oh, for the win. But was your dad there watching you run with the last race that he was there?
No, I didn't race that. I didn't race that day. My two boys raced, and my stepdaughter was racing.
So watching the grandkids.
Yep.
And I said this was a family affair when we went to the break, and that's what I wanted to bring up. So your son, Anthony, they called him the Tornado. I love the nicknames, by the way, still in play.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Is that something that runs throughout the series up there? Does everybody have them?
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that have nicknames, and what's funny is everybody thinks Anthony's nickname is from racing, but when he was a little kid, he had like 500 Matchbox cars and big cars, and his room looked like a tornado went through it. And that I used to call him. I used to say, "It looks like a tornado," and it stuck. That's where he got his nickname from.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I figured it was racing for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. So Anthony runs. Whenever you won that memorial race, there was a Joey Payne III that finished 10th.
Yep, that's my oldest son.
Okay,
yep.
And you said your daughter,
my stepdaughter, Brianna Page, she was in the race as well. So there's sometimes me and my two sons and my stepdaughter are on the track at the same time, which is pretty damn cool for a racing family.
How's Thanksgiving if that goes wrong?
I try not to make it go wrong.
Somebody's got to do the dishes.
I try not to make it go wrong. There has been some occasions where my sons,
had to go give them some fatherly advice.
It's bragging rights in my family, so they're all out to get dad. So once in a while, there's some stuff that goes on, and it's all hard racing and fun. But dad usually comes out on top.
Have there ever been any moments where things got like maybe went a little further than they should?
There was one time we're at Wall Stadium at the Turkey Derby, and I was in like maybe 5th. My son Anthony was in 6th, and Joey was somewhere behind us. And I went into turn 1, and Anthony was behind me. We both lifted, and Anthony says to me afterwards, he goes, "Dad," he goes, "I lifted, you lifted, and I saw this white flash go down the inside, and it was my oldest son. Cleaned me out.
Used you up.
He just used me up."
Oh, man.
So it happens.
That's a long ride home.
Yeah. You can load this junk back to the train.
Yeah. Right. That's pretty cool, though. I mean, and that is the magic. We've talked about it often, but for me, racing with my son, the time he was 13 years old, it's kept us connected.
Yeah.
I used it for leverage when he was a teenager and could have definitely faded off in the wrong direction. So it was great leverage.
Yeah.
And I think raising them around those people, they're very successful people in business with blue collar work ethics.
Right.
And they see people working hard in the visual every day, and it's just another thing. It's like, yeah, we're going to work late tonight, and we're going to get up, and we're going to work early in the morning. We're going to go racetrack. We're going to work all day. We're going to race, and I mean, it's just a great environment for them to be around.
Yeah, I say it every day. You know, there's not too many families around that could say their 22, 23, 24-year-old kids still go on the weekends to races with them. You know, it's a family affair.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
My kids have seen the country. You know, like a lot of kids don't get to go out of their own state. My kids have been from Indiana east and from Maine to Florida, and they've seen a bunch of different things. You know, we used to make, you know, race weeks a vacation time to take the kids, like Cedar Point when we used to rent Sandusky, and, you know, just used to just make it worth their while. At least they were there for the race, but we got to take them places to see other things as well.
Yeah, and I want to throw it out there that you're not necessarily a family of means. You've basically driven for a lot of people, fortunately enough to have enough skill to drive for other people. But point being is, I know you have to have race cars for your kids. I think your oldest son, you said, has his own now, but it's not like you're going out fielding 4 cars here. It's a lot of money. It's the stuff you've been able to do because you dig in and work hard. It's not because you're a billionaire.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you know, like back on the East Coast, I mean, it's not like Indy or, you know, where, you know, you get TV deals and, you know, sponsors are hard to come by. And like, I have a indoor 3/4 midget for Anthony. I have a NEMA light for Anthony that we're putting together for next year. I have a pavement modified. We're deciding if we're going to do it or not. And it's all Dad's money. And, you know, fortunately, Anthony has a good job and he helps pay a lot of the bills as well. So it's good, but it's that father-son bonding, which is there's no money in the world that could take that away.
Right. I told my wife, I said, we might end up retired in a Maytag box. For you young people, that's what washers and dryers used to come in. I said, we might end up under a bridge in a Maytag box, but we're going to have a bunch of memories.
A Maytag box, just to let everybody know, a Maytag box is a nice setup, though. A lot of work.
Yeah, and if you can get someplace where the climate's good, I mean, what more do you need?
Yeah.
I don't know if the climate's too good here. Maybe like Florida.
Yeah, no, Florida. Yeah, no, we got to go south. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back.
And I go, if I can't race, boom.
You can't race either.
He was done.
Welcome back to the Skinny. We're here in Indianapolis, Indiana. We have the Jersey Jet in the studio with us here and chatting with him about Northeast racing. And we'll go back to that super modified thing. I want to hear the story about you're at Oswego and Doug DiDiro spins down on the bottom and things got a little crazy.
Yeah, so Oswego always has, you know, in the driver's meeting, they talk about nobody's allowed to do 360s because in the classic, if you do a 360, you know, if you spin out, they count laps. So it happened a bunch of years. Somebody gets spun out and they just put their foot to the floor and do 360s. And I was always an advocate for, we can't do that stuff because somebody's going to get hurt. So
why would they do that, by the way? Don't you usually do that when you win?
They don't want to lose the lap. That's
they try and keep it going.
Right. So I'm in this particular race. I think I was in like 5th position. Just 200 laps. Nope. You can make a pit stop if you want. So I always like to ride and try and save my tires and have more at the end of the race. So I'm probably in 5th, 6th, somewhere around there, and somebody gets by me, and they hit Doug DiDiro and he spins out. So now he spins out and he puts his foot to the floor and he starts doing 360s. So I go up to the wall And I'm like, well, I'm far enough away where he's not going to take me out. Sure enough, you couldn't see anything. The smoke was like clouds. It was terrible. And I'm up against the wall, and just as I think I'm through it, boom, he hits me. Blows the whole left side of my car off. Now I'm pissed. I'm like, I can't believe this, because $20,000 to win the Classic, and it's the biggest race of the year. So now a little bit of my Jersey side comes out in me. I throttle up. I go around the track, start coming around into turn 4 where he is, and he's sitting spun out. And I go, if I can't race, boom.
You can't race either.
He was done. I knocked his nose wing. I didn't hit him a ton, but I made my point. And sure enough, they were going to throw me out of the track and all this stuff. And the next year, when we had the drivers' meeting, that was brought up about the 360s and me driving around the track and hitting them. I said, no problem. Next time he's doing 360s in front of me, I'll just keep my foot in it and I'll just cut the car in half. That you want? That's what you get.
So, did you and Doug talk about it after?
Oh, I wanted him. Like, it was a standoff. He was on one side of the pit. I was on the other. And, there might have been a couple of Budweisers involved and
couple of Bud Heavies.
Yeah, Bud Heavies, because it is the Bud Classic.
Right.
And
they don't always make you wiser.
You do get a case of beer every time you start the race. They put it in front of your car. So.
And that makes sense.
Well, it'd just be rude if you didn't have one.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. You got to help the
Get
sponsors
that cooled
out.
off. I'm going to need one on the pit stop.
So I wanted him outside. Like, I wanted to go outside the track and just
sort things out.
Beat his ass.
Yeah.
But it never happened. It never happened. He actually called the cops, and the track security came over and told me that, the cops are outside, and if anything happens, you're going to spend the night in jail. So
it's not my first time.
I got friends in there.
Yeah, I know people.
But, getting back to that, I mean, a lot of people think I'm a hothead and crazy and all this shit, but it's passion. And that's what it is. Like, I work my butt off to be there at the end of races and win races, and you take something like that and the guy takes you out because he doesn't want to lose a lap and doesn't care, doesn't have a care in the world about anybody else except himself.
Right.
And I have to pay the price for it.
Want to get the skinny on other guests and different types of motorsports? Check out our YouTube page and get the skinny. The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. Innovation is our life force.
You're looking at the Jersey Jet. That is Mr. Joey Payne has joined us here in the Fatheads Eyewear Studios. Had a great show. By the way, I read or heard somewhere along the way inside of the Super Modified, you broke your ribs twice. Was that from G-Load?
One, I broke my ribs back in, I think it was Mansfield Speedway. Somebody had spun out, and I caught his right front with my left front and went in the air. I hit the wall in the air, and just, the cars are so tight. So you do have rib supports, but they're against the frame. So
okay,
when I hit like on an angle.
Flex is really good when you hit it.
Oh yeah. Your body flex is really good. So I broke my ribs then, and about 2 years ago, I missed almost the whole season because as a man, you try and do like heavy loads of work, and I had an extra large wheelbarrow full of dirt, and I was pushing it up the ramp on my truck, and I couldn't make it up to the peak, so I asked my wife for some help, and it was starting to rain, and we started pushing, and the ramp spread apart.
Oh,
and I fell on top of the wheelbarrow and broke my ribs.
Did anybody video that? I mean, that could be some good B-roll stuff.
Yeah, no,
we'd like to see
there
that.
There was some good words flying, but
hey man, let's talk about something really cool here. The Penix Payne 14 car that you brought back to life, and did you change a lot of stuff on it too? Did I read where you did away with the straight axle, but front suspension?
So at Oswego, everything is aero dependent now. So this car that I was racing, it was a good car 6 years ago, but things have become so much more aero dependent. So with the straight axle, my nose went straight down to the ground and the shocks were in the nose. So I only had 2 nose wings on the front of the car. And what happens is when in the wind tunnel, when the air hits the nose, the air goes way out to the sides, and we're only getting like 6 inches
it
of
blows
air.
it right off the wings.
So
the wings aren't even doing their job.
Just maneuver. And so now we clip the car, cage forward, straighten the engine up so the engine doesn't lay over 40 degrees anymore, and put independent front on it. It's like an Indy car now. One big nose wing across the front, and the downforce is so much better. And what they've been doing now is, since we went to this higher wing package in the back, we started off with a 1/2-inch wicker like 4 years ago, and it made a ton of downforce, and the cars went from my 15.802 record down to 15.30 record. So not the half a second off times. I mean, they were shooting to slow the cars down, and now they sped them up. So now 2 years ago they went with a 1/4-inch wicker, and times were still down close to 15.3s. So now there's no wicker, and it's like driving on ice. I mean, there's no downforce across the back of the car.
Oh wow!
And so that's what's a wicker.
Wicker like that, so that puts it back in the driver's hands a little bit.
It does. And so this year I missed 3/4 of the season because of I had some kidney issues. Got that squared away, and so I raced it 3 times. And the first week it was like, oh my God, it was these guys race there and test there every week, and we went up for the first week, and it was tough. I mean, the car wasn't anywhere close to where I was comfortable.
Yeah.
And we adjusted on it, rebound, compression, spring rates, and made it a lot better. And I got the car to where I like it. And, unfortunately the season was over. We ran the classic. I timed in pretty good, but, in these days, the tires there's a lot of, not games being played, but my practice set of tires with 100 laps on them were faster than my race tires.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
was the car too stuck? Or was it
no,
freer
it wasn't stuck at all. It wasn't stuck at all.
Stuck
The tires were not as good.
Wow, that's crazy. And I would also have to think that with that wing you're talking about, if you didn't change your front wing, I mean, it has to be, if it's plant in the back, that means the front's got to turn in, and without that, you couldn't have turned at all.
I tried. We extended the nose wings. I added like 8 inches of more wing to the back of the nose wing just to try and get some downforce on the car, and it just like this down the straightaway.
Yeah,
just no downforce on the front.
Dude, they're wild cars. Absolutely beautiful works of art, and rocket ship fast. So cool.
Yeah, they are as close to an Indy car as you'll ever imagine getting. And I'm just the lucky guy that gets to drive it for Don Penix. He lives in California, and he's got 2 super modifieds out there. He's got a pavement sprint car, wing pavement sprint car out there, and he trusts me to take his car and maintain it. And I love doing it. I mean, it is a beautiful car, and I take pride. And he loves his cars looking pristine, and I got it to where he loves it. And
we got to wrap this thing up here. But we were speaking of David Hamilton before. Open Wheel Showdown. Will you be going to that?
I don't think so.
No.
It's nowadays it just costs too much money to travel cross country.
It's a long hike, isn't it?
It's a long
and they were missing that. I mean, it was a very successful show, and I'm sure it will be again here this year on the West Coast. But they were definitely missing the super modifieds from the Northeast. They'd like to get more of them.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky. Dave Danzer won the race last year, East Coast guy.
Representing, yo.
Yeah, yep, representing.
Awesome stuff. The Jersey Jet, Joey Payne, in the studio with us. Thanks a lot, man. I know it took a little bit to get you in here, but finally got it done. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me. I came here with brown hair. Now I got gray hair.
Yeah.
And, it's been a fun couple days, and I really appreciate you guys. And,
this is the first show we've ever done a 2-day taping.
Yeah, there you go. He's special. We'll see you next week.